Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're about to unpack a topic that is profoundly important, yet, honestly, so often misunderstood. Today, we're going to explore the vital biological link between metabolic health and fertility success. We're going to look right past all the common myths and zero in on the incredible science of how our bodies function on a cellular level when we're trying to conceive. If you or someone you know is navigating the complex world of fertility, understanding what is actually happening under the hood is the ultimate empowerment. So, get comfortable and let's unravel this whole shebang together.
Okay, let's dive into this. When we talk about fertility struggles, we usually focus on the most visible factors, right? But I want to ask you, what is the hidden barrier to conception? Well, the answer lies in something happening so quietly you don't even feel it. We're talking about a quiet, long-term inflammatory state that can be caused by obesity. Now, I want to be very clear right out of the gate, we are framing this inflammation, not you, not the patient, as the hidden villain here. This isn't about guilt or stigma, it's about a silent, underlying biological process that creates a literal roadblock to your goals.
Section 1. The quiet inflammatory state and fat tissue's hidden role.
So let's transition away from how society typically talks about weight and focus purely on the biological mechanics, the internal chemical environment of the human body. This is where the science gets really fascinating, and this brilliantly illustrates a major paradigm shift in modern biology. You see, the common misconception has always been that fat tissue is just an inert savings account, just sitting there storing energy. But the surprising scientific reality? Fat tissue is highly active. It actually acts like its own endocrine organ, actively releasing hormones and inflammatory chemicals directly into your bloodstream. When we carry excess weight, this chemical factory goes into overdrive, pumping out signals that completely change the landscape of your internal environment.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because those chemicals definitely don't just disappear. They set off a very specific chain reaction. First, this active chemical factory starts by disrupting your baseline metabolism. That leads directly to a hormone imbalance, and as we know, conception requires a flawless hormonal symphony. From there, this quiet inflammation can actually reduce egg quality. It impairs the lining of the uterus, making implantation difficult, and it creates profound challenges in early pregnancy maintenance. The biology required for conception is incredibly delicate, and this inflammatory state acts like static on a radio, just disrupting the signals your body absolutely needs to succeed.
Section 2. The impact on IVF outcomes.
All right, we've looked at the natural mechanics, but now let's shift our narrative to the hard scientific data. When patients turn to assisted reproductive technologies, researchers track very specific markers to understand why a cycle might be struggling. Let's put a name to these invisible villains, shall we? Researchers look very closely at IL-6 and TNF-alpha. These are specific inflammatory markers released by the body, and science shows us they're elevated in a state of obesity. Think of IL-6 and TNF-alpha as the measurable, hard evidence of that quiet inflammation we talked about earlier. They are the actual chemical culprits circulating in the system.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it grounds everything we are talking about in authoritative research. This isn't just a theory. Higher inflammatory markers, specifically our villains IL-6 and TNF-alpha, may be linked with poorer embryo quality, lower implantation rates, and worse overall outcomes for IVF and ICSC in women with obesity. This is a direct correlation. It's not some grand mystery, it's a measurable biological cause and effect happening on a microscopic level.
And that brings us to a tough but necessary reality we have to acknowledge. Recent studies report that overall, overweight and obese women undergoing IVF may face lower pregnancy and live birth rates. I know acknowledging this reality can feel incredibly heavy. It really establishes the full weight of the problem. But understanding this fact is actually the most crucial step toward changing it. Because once we know exactly what the barrier is, we can dismantle it.
Section 3. Preparing for healthy conception.
We've identified the problem, we've named the villains, and now we get to move to a highly empowering, solution-oriented approach. So I want to ask you directly, how can we change this environment? How do we reverse this quiet inflammation, quiet down that chemical factory, and clear out the static before you even start fertility treatments?
Well, here is your explicit pathway to success. It's a logical four-step process. Step 1, you focus on improving your baseline metabolic health. Step 2, this naturally leads to achieving healthy, sustainable weight loss. Step 3, as the fat tissue shrinks, that chemical factory slows way down, and you actively reduce inflammation, meaning those IL-6 and TNF-alpha levels finally drop. And Step 4,
You stabilize your blood sugar, which keeps your hormones beautifully balanced. By optimizing your metabolic health first, you are fundamentally changing your body's ecosystem for the better.
So the crucial point is this. When you follow those steps, the result is a fundamentally healthier internal environment for conception and pregnancy. You have effectively neutralized the inflammatory barrier. It's literally like preparing the soil perfectly before planting the seed.
Section 4. The Berkley Center Solution. Knowing the biology is only half the battle. But having a partner to guide you through the protocol is how you actually win it. You need an actionable next step. Tackling metabolic health shouldn't be a solo effort. It really requires specialized knowledge. That is exactly where the Berkley Center for Reproductive Wellness comes in. They provide highly specific, fertility-focused nutritional guidance and customized meal plans. This isn't some generic diet. This is a scientifically grounded strategy designed to specifically target the exact reproductive biology we've been breaking down in this explainer. Their custom meal plans are designed with precision to support healthy weight loss. They're engineered to actively reduce inflammation, basically starving out those villainous markers. And ultimately, they aim to improve your overall reproductive wellness. Every single bite is a step toward neutralizing those hidden barriers and creating that optimal internal environment for conception. They do the heavy lifting of the nutritional science so you can just focus on your well-being.
If everything we've talked about today resonates with you, here is your clear, confident next step. You can reach them directly at 212-685-0985. Go ahead and write that down, 212-685-0985. Schedule a consultation. By making that single call, you are taking an active, scientifically backed stance in your fertility journey.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Are you ready to optimize your metabolic health, calm the inflammation, and take empowered control of your fertility journey? You now understand the profound connection between your metabolism and conception. You know that fat tissue is an active participant. You know the exact names of the inflammatory markers to target, and you have the roadmap to change your internal environment. The science is on your side, and the power is absolutely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I wish you nothing but the absolute best on your path forward.